Joining us now is Michigan Congressman Thaddeus McCotter of the House Financial Services Committee, who's the author of the new book, Speech Freedom. Congressman, good morning. Welcome this morning.
Thanks, Eric.
You know, we saw how bitter just getting this deal was, $38 billion. Some Democrats accusing Republicans of wanting to kill women, saying it's a war on women, a civil war, that they're bombing innocent civilians. I mean, what can we expect with this type of rancor when we're dealing with the debt limit that's coming next?
Well, first, thank you for repeating all that. Secondly, I think that what it shows is the difference between the parties. I think, as we've talked about before, Eric, America knows that in the 21st century we can't simply try to prolong Lyndon Johnson's legacy. What we're seeing all around us is power devolving into individuals' hands through the communications revolution, people making their own decisions, wanting to control their own money. The Democrats still locked in a 1960s and 1970s attitude towards a big bureaucratic, centralized, making your decisions for you. The very fact that they cannot adjust their minds to the times in which we live, I think, is the cause for such histrionic and irresponsible rhetoric, or what they like to call the new civility.
Well, but many people around the country rely on these programs. Paul Ryan's budget proposal, they say, will gut Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, if you're under 55, you're going to get slammed on Social Security. So how do we go forward when dealing with this very contentious issue?
Well, I think that when you talk about the Ryan plan, I think it shows three things, but you agree on the individual particulars of it. One, it shows that Republicans are serious about the entitlement reform problem. Two, we have serious ideas on how to deal with it. And three, that the Democrats are seriously irresponsible to use vitriol in their remarks about Republicans when they didn't even pass a budget in the first place and show no interest at all in taking these issues on. So as we go forward, Eric, I think that the Republicans are just going to have to get used to the idea that in many ways it's going to be a conversation between ourselves and the American public as to what the sovereign people wish to see. Because in the final analysis, we're trying to offer a distinct vision between the two parties. The Democrats' doing nothing and spending everything approach means that we'll have bankruptcy. The Republican reform approach means that we'll have solvency.
Well, the Democrats say that they're doing their part. The president hailed it as a issue of bipartisanship and shows that it can work. What next? You've got the $14 trillion debt. We've got the deficit vote. I mean, how do we trim this and get some of this under control?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head in the beginning when you talked about how long it took to do the budget before us, and even though I didn't vote against it, I do respect the efforts that were put forward. And it certainly wasn't the fault of Leader Boehner, Speaker Boehner, or anyone else that the cuts weren't as large as people wanted. You have to remember, it was the intransigence of the Democratic Senate and the White House that led this issue to be prolonged, that led to the resolution being less than people expected on many quarters. As we go forward, the budget debate is going to be key, and I think that what we have to focus on is the difference between the parties. Again, they are trying to keep in place the 1960s-70s model of big government that is no longer sustainable, as every indicator shows us, from entitlements going bankrupt to the overall fiscal state of the United States. Republicans may not have all the answers, but we're certainly looking, and we're certainly putting them forward. And that's what's going to lead to a lot of rancor. You also have the situation where the House was entrusted to the Republicans by the people. The Senate remained in Democratic hands because the people wanted it that way last election. And you're going to continue to see a cross-chamber discussion of this, and you're going to continue the White House, I fear, sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what happens.
Well, it's been the big issue that's now thrust in the national headlines and forefront in the challenges that we face in this country. Thaddeus McCotter, a Republican of Michigan, 11th District. Thanks so much, Congressman, for joining us this morning.
Thanks.